Hi there. Are you racing Ironman or 70.3 this year and you're a little bit nervous about how it will pan out in the race day? If so, this is the video for you because in it, I'm going to walk you step by step through the process of creating and documenting the perfect race day strategy that will allow you avoid a lot of common pitfalls when racing Ironman. But who am I? My name is Coach Steve from Smart Endurance Solutions. I'm an Ironman U certified coach who literally has got thousands of athletes around the world to Ironman start lines and finish lines. And I want to help you to do this exact same thing. And if that's not good enough, if you stick around to the end of the video, I actually advise how you can get access to my handy race day strategy template, which will allow you to print off and just fill in the details specific to your race. So let's get to it. So what is a race strategy? Essentially, a race strategy is just it's your race day plan, but it doesn't cover just your pacing because especially for Ironman and 70.3 distance, you really need to cover items about the course layout considerations, how the transition flow will work, and what kind of things you need to know. Here's a section from the template, which I'll talk to at the end. Where your swim sighting points, where's your bike bag location, bike racking point, things that you will need to remember on race day and can be a bit overwhelming if you're sort of going, oh, but again, if you've walked the course, wrote down examples, taken pictures of where your bike is, where your bag is, this will help reduce your nerves. What else do we need to talk about? There's the swim course specifics. How many boys are there? Are there any sort of turns that you where it's going to be awkward to sight? And again, what chute do you go in for your corral, your timing, etc. Bike course specifics. Are there any hills on the course? Where will they come? Where are the aid stations? Are there any kind of hazardous points on the course that you need to be aware of and just be know that there's a sharp turn at 30 kilometers on the course? Again, these can all be figured out by looking at the videos of course reviews, the athlete's guide, etc. And I'll talk about where you gather this information at the end of the video. Onto the run course, is it a flat course? Is it an out and back? How many loops, etc. Key things, and also where the aid stations are and what they're serving. And again, the final point on that as well is then nutrition considerations, because you'll need to have your own nutrition strategy nailed down beforehand. And if that realistically is going to have to be reliant on some aid stations at 70.3 and definitely at full distance. So you need to know when they come, what they're serving, and what's your plan in terms of actually maximizing them to help you on your race day performance. But again, so why do you need a race day strategy? I've talked through the components there, but do you really need it? Well, of course you do, because first off, it helps with your pre-race nerves, especially if it's one of your first race at this distance. The more you can take away from the kind of unknowns will help you on the day. Speaking of the unknown, it actually helps map out and think about the key information you'll need to do on race day. Where are the aid stations? Are there hills? Are there hazards on the bike course that you need to be aware of, etc.? Again, having it all on one simple one-pager makes your life a lot easier. And you know what? It just helps you be prepared. There's a lot of things that can go wrong on an Ironman race day, but if you at least are prepared, you'll know how to adapt and overcome. So just thinking it through, writing it down on paper is very therapeutic and also helps a lot of athletes have a really good race day experience. Okay, so first part of the race strategy document for me is all about the pre-venue familiarization rather than the actual specific elements about your swim pace, your bike pace, your etc. and run pace. So these are the things I get my guys to get together. Oops. First off, let's accept it. An Ironman or 70.3 are a logistical beast. There's lots of moving parts you need to get ready. So there's elements that you need to get familiar with, and there's some key things here. So I always advise people to head out a couple of days early, as in if you've trained for this and you've trained 6 months plus, why actually cut yourself to arrive the day beforehand? Arrive a couple of days, get familiarized with the location, and also there's key things you need to learn. So I would say that part of your kind of pre-race recce is you walk the course once you've got access to it when transition's set up, and then you kind of map out key things you'll need to know on your race day flow. And it's as simple as this, and this is part of my template, but where the swim entry, what are you going to cite in terms of citing points is where you make sure you're swimming in a straight line, are the key things you're going to aim for, mark them down. Where do you come out of the swim? What does that mean of a run up? Where do you get to your bike bag, your blue bag? Ironman and 70.3 have specific transition rules. There's a video in the comments below about how that works, but essentially you will need to pick up a blue bag when you've come out of the water that has your bike kit and you swap in. But where is that? What direction? Do you have to run left after the swim exit? Is it whereabouts is the racking point? Is it in line with the portaloo? Is it is it right at the back of the course, etc.? Walking this and writing down this information. Also a top tip. I take a little shot of this and go like on my phone and go, okay, where was it? Okay, it was right beside the big palm tree. Okay, what's that look like? And it just helps me get the flow right in my mind. Where is your bike racked? Where is the bike exit? What way do you have to run with your bike? Where's the mount line that you have to get over? Having all this in your head as well, it means it becomes quite mechanical. I go, right, so I pick up my bag, I run down to the third rack, I move over, get my bike, I run to the left. The mount line is there. I need to make sure I clear that beforehand. In the same way, your bike to run, where's the dismount line? Is it around the corner? Do you need to kind of be aware that you just need to slow down? Will it affect whether or not you're able to do a postman dismount, or you just have to come to full stop and get off the bike? These things will influence decisions you'll make beforehand, and you should know what you're gonna do rather than kind of, oh, it's a bit late and a rubble and sort of come off the bike. Where's your run bag location? Where running back into transition, where do you have to rack your bike before you can actually take off your helmet, as I said, because you'll be coming from a different angle, most likely with most Ironman courses. Where's the run exit, etc. Like these are for the flow. We'll talk about the different sections about what you should be prepared for the swim, the bike, the run, and kind of key information you should know in your head for your race day strategy. But these are things that you should know, write down, and as I said, or take pictures. Other things that you'll need, and again, it's just working through the transition flow, because people can make an awful lot of mess of transition and lose an awful lot of time. But there's also some other key logistics that you should be aware of in terms of what times, and it'll affect your travel plans as well. When do you need to register? Typically, it opens up 2-3 days beforehand. I tend to try and get there as early as possible, and hang around and get a bit of feel for the venue. When's the race briefing for your language? Practice swim. A lot of the Ironman races will actually put an organized practice swim. Make sure you take advantage of that if you do. Again, it will feed into what sighting points you're going to use and put in your race day strategy. Bike check-in. This typically is between 1 and 6 the day before, and that's also where you have to hang up your transition bags. You need to have all that prepared, etc. And work around your your last minute shakeout sessions. Like if there's no point in planning your last minute shakeout bike check-in at 7 p.m. the day before, because your bike would checked in. What time does transition open at in the morning? And again, this feeds back into what time do you have to set your alarm clock. Spoiler alert, it's gonna be early. And also, but when do you have to have your breakfast? When do you have to time that vital last bowel movement, so you don't have to go to the portaloos of doom? And again, typically most Ironman races will allow you access to bags beforehand, so you can actually sort of check your bags again and put your bike computers on and your food. Don't put them on the night before, because it attracts critters. What time's your start? Where are you going to stand in your start corral? And what time you need to, what's the distance walking from transition, etc. Don't put yourself under pressure that you're checking your bike bag and the transition closes at 6:30 and it's a 20-minute walk down and you're trying to get down there and you're faffing, etc. Almost work out, this is my drop dead time before I have to leave to walk down. It just takes the stress out of the day, which can be fairly nerve jangling. Okay, so speaking of swim sessions, let's talk about the key things that I would advise you to check out and be aware of when you're starting and when you're mapping out your swim part of your strategy document. Moving on to the actual discipline-specific elements of your race strategy. We need to work out sort of info for your swim, your bike, and your run. And that's what I'm going to do, and highlight the key information pieces in this next piece of the video. So first off, what you need to know, again, for the swim element is make sure you know when you need to get to the swim start. And again, this includes some time to get to transition, do some last minute checks, put your food on the bike, make sure your bike computer's set up, etc. And also some travel time. How long is it going to take you to walk down there? You want to be there nice and early, don't want to be rushed and sort of stressed out. The work out your starting corral. This is based on your estimated swim time. So make sure you get in there nice and early. Don't turn up late, because otherwise you would get stuck at the back of that starting corral and that might impact your swim time. So and that comes to actually, what is your planned pace? This can be worked off your CSS or sort of your race pace open water swims. I talk about that in the race template, race strategy template. I give you some estimates of numbers, what to use. But also give yourself a best and worst case scenario, because if you only have one time in mind, and you actually come out of the water even a few minutes off that can be deflating. So it's best to give yourself, if all the stars align, I can hit this time. If a couple of things go wrong, if there's a bit more current, as in if I don't draft as well as I should, this would be another time I can get. Again, back to our pre-race recce, make sure you have in your head what the main sighting points you're going to aim for, and make sure you was aware of them before you get out into the water. A quick brief, and this is where the race strategy document comes into its own. When you're sitting down, having your breakfast, you're just going through it and everything's there. Nutrition element, not really important for the swim element of our document. It just, again, you can't put down when you're going to have your breakfast, when you're going to what you're going to take pre-race start. Is it going to be a quick gel? Is it a banana, a bit of water? And just make sure you have that. Shows you what you need to bring to the race start as well. Next up is our bike specific elements. Again, and this is where we go back to our first section, where our pre-race recce. Work out again, what's your swim to bike transition flow? Where will you come out of the water? How far do you have to run? What corral are you going to? Where's your bag racked, etc.? Where's your bike racked? And make sure you have it smooth in your head so you can have a quick and seamless transition. Again, also you remember the mount and dismount lines as well. So when you're coming out of the bike and all the rest, you know exactly where you're going, and you're not doing that lost in transition moment where you're losing valuable minutes. Again, for your planned pace, and how you're going to judge this. Are you judging this by heart rate, by power, by perceived exertion? And again, what does that, or even more bluntly, what's your sort of overall pace that you are hoping to achieve? Again, you'll have worked this out in your training sessions in the build phase of your plan, but make sure you've written them down and you're aware of the differences. Again, give yourself an A and a B goal as a best, worst, or even just an optimal outcome. That means you won't catastrophize if something goes wrong. And spoiler alert, things do go wrong in Ironman. If you have mechanical, if you drop some nutrition, does that mean that you move from your A to your B goal? But again, it's all about getting the best out of this specific section of the race, and then moving on. If you have a bad swim and you're dwelling on it for the first 20, 30 minutes of your bike, what's that going to impact? It's not going to improve your swim. It's going to impact your bike. So everything is literally 3 different kind of slots, and you get the best out of each. Add them all up, and hopefully you've got a good race day experience. Things to note as well, where the aid stations, again, we'll talk about where you get all this information and how best. And a bit of a pro tip, what I do is when I write down the aid stations and the hills, I print it off on a small piece of paper and I stick it onto my stem of my bike. So therefore I can just look down and go, oh, okay, next aid station is at 40K. I don't need to worry about that, as opposed to when was the last aid station? Is that at 40 or 50K? Take the thinking out of what's going to be a very stressful day for you. And again, with the hills, sort of go, okay, right, there's a sharp turn and it goes up to an 8% gradient. You can prepare yourself in terms of getting the right gears, etc., and avoid any kind of nasty surprises. Are there hazards? And there are no overtake zones, like, for example, on Hamburg. These will be kind of outlined in the race briefing and so the athlete's guide. Again, I'll talk about that in the next section, where you get all this information to input into your race strategy doc. Nutrition, what you're going to eat, how you're going to eat, when you do. You will practice this in your build sessions. And by the way, there's a link to a couple of videos about how to work out your nutrition strategy in the links below, and also how to keep yourself on track with your nutrition strategy. Spoiler alert, it's all about Garmin or your or your sports wearable that will give you reminders. But knowing that and having that in the top of your head, they go, right, after 20 minutes, I need to take a Cliff bar. After 30 minutes, I would aim to have finished, was it my first bottle, etc., etc. It just takes the thinking out of it and second guessing. Again, you will have nailed this down in your build sessions. We talk about that again, video below. Run specific elements. Again, now we're going to remember, it's back to our kind of familiarization. Where is our dismount line? What's our flow? Do we rack our bike? What's our run? What journey are we taking in through? Where is our red bag racked? Where do we go to put on our runners? And what is our run exit? All of this will save you time if you've thought through it, visualized it in your head beforehand. What's your planned versus worst pace and all the rest? And are you going to, was it ease into that? What's your strategy there? Are you going to go just go for a monotone pace the entire time? Are you going to go for a reverse split? There's different ways of cutting it. And these are things you will have practiced in build. Where are the aid stations and what have they got and how much you're going to be reliant on them? Big pro tip, never miss an aid station. Make sure you get as much as you can out of them for fuel and Ironman, as in we pay them enough. Are there any hills of note in terms of this run course? Typically, Ironman courses are flat enough, but some, for example, South Africa and stuff has a bit of an undulating course. Know where they're coming and don't be surprised on the day. Heat management typically becomes more of an issue on the run because we're kind of on the bike, we have that cooling air. But when you're running and there's just a dead heat, for example, if it's in a hot race, how are you going to keep your temperature down? How are you going to keep your core temperature down? Do you have a cooling hat? Do you have arm coolers? Are you just reliant on kind of water down the top, etc.? Have these ideas in mind so don't get caught out. Nutrition, again, back to our aid stations. And again, I talk about how to fuel on the run as well in that video below. So where do you get all this pieces of information to put into your race strategy document? So on the venue specific information, one of the best places is actually YouTube reviews of the race if you don't want to wait for the athlete guide, which typically is only released a couple of weeks out. I actually have some links to some race reviews I've done below based on my athlete experience and my own personal experience. And actually, if you don't see the race you're doing, actually put in the comments below as in what you would be interested in me doing my next race review on. And then, as I said, the athlete guide is great in terms of it'll give you some really valuable information. The race briefing, don't miss that because there will be some kind of possible last minute changes that the race briefing or the race reviews won't be able to cover. And there's no substitute for getting on the race venue early and walking the course and getting all that info. So that's your race specific info. For the discipline specific info, you'll be honing in on that in your build phase of your plan when you're trying out race based elements, where if you're going to target your bike by power, sort of what your latest FTP, what sort of percent are you going to aim for that? When on the run, if you're going to be, target heart rate or pace or perceived exertion you're going to work on. These are things that you work out yourself in your race pace specific elements, and that will give you kind of the ability to get the feel for that and put the numbers in what you're going to be your good day, your average day, and your bad day, and then you'll have those information as awareness markers to keep track on and be mindful of come race day. Nutrition side of the house, again, this is something you will trial out in your build phase on your long bikes, your long runs, and you'll have hopefully worked that out in terms of how you're going to get that certain amount of calories in, when you're going to eat it, how you're going to keep on track, etc. Again, I cover that in the comments below. So listen, that is how you build a race strategy document, and I hope that was very useful. For those who are you get the concepts but you don't want to pull the actual document together yourself, If you are interested in getting access to my template, I am giving subscribers to my channel the access was that I'll email you out a race strategy template, which I have most of the sections out there, and just was it sections where you can write in your numbers or your the sighting points, etc., which you can print off, write it up, and actually bring to you on your race venue. So if interested, email me to info@smartenduranceSolutions.com. That will be on the screen now. That's info@smartenduranceSolutions.com. And again, please as well make sure you're a subscriber, you've liked the video, and if there's a race review video you'd like to see, put that in the comments below, and we'll see how even further I can help you have a great race day experience.